Okay. I really like this, sis. We're definitely going. Oh, she's so sweet. We're definitely going to have to keep doing this live because I didn't realize we could do it like this. I know we could do it like this on Facebook, but it's nice to see that we can do it here. Well,
Hmm.
welcome, Katrina. So I just want to say thank you, first off, for joining. This is the Good Talk Facebook Live. And
Woo-hoo.
right, we're going to be talking about overcoming struggles as single parents. And so this is our kind of our second attempt at doing it live. I know we did this last year, but due to technology and stuff, we didn't quite have it down. But praise God that He's bringing it back around again. So before I get started, can you go ahead and tell a little bit of our audience about yourself?
Ooh, what to share? What to share? Do I do one of those like fun facts?
Yeah, sounds good. Yes.
My favorite fun fact to share is that I can juggle.
Ooh, okay. That is a talent because juggling
Hmm.
is not easy.
Been juggling since I was 12. Not that great at it, but I know how to do it.
Okay.
Um, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm here because I one of the reasons why I'm here is to be a single parent and to share about being a single parent. So that is a big identifier for me. I have a 10-year-old. He just turned 10, which is wild to me. And every parent out there knows how it's like, where in the world did the time go? So
Right.
I'm kind of in that same boat. Um, I am an Air Force veteran. I have a degree in psychology. I'm a poet. I'm a writer. I like to sing. I serve a lot in our church community. I have a singles group for anybody who wants to have a community of people to belong to, and you're single. Doesn't matter whether you're a parent or not. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter if you're male or female.
Yeah.
So that is, ooh,
Uh-oh.
I almost had a malfunction here.
Okay.
Okay, hopefully we're good.
Yes, we're good.
So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm a very passionate person. I like to get into things. I'm very creative and innovative, and I like to just get dive into all kinds of things and just go after what feels good.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Katrina. And I just want to say, my name is Patrice Harris, and I am the founder of the Good Foundation, which stands for Giving Others Opportunity, Driving Evolvement. And our mission is to connect, support, and uplift single parent families by what we call rooting out non-value added behaviors and using the grace pillar to enact sustainable change. And grace is around grounding, responsibility, accountability, community, and edification. And so we've been doing these good talks for some time, and it's been just such an honor to meet Katrina in this. You know, she's my sister in Christ. We go to service together, we do a lot of community work together, but
Mhm.
to really be able to connect on this level and really have that understanding, she's been a great part of my village and support. And so to hear different testimonies and to hear different people sharing what their experience is like as being a parent that's single, it has just been a blessing to me. And
Mhm.
so we want to definitely just share how we've overcame some struggles as being a parent and that's single. We're trying to change it. We're not just single parents. We're a parent who is single. We have other attributes, right?
Right.
But
There's more to us.
exactly, yes. So we want to talk about a little bit about that. And so Katrina, if you can name like one thing, one of the struggles that you felt that you overcame as being a parent who was raising your son on your own, what would that be?
Um, I think I would say in the season I'm in now, the thing that I'm overcoming now is ridding myself of the superwoman complex. Um,
Okay.
just letting go of the I gotta do it all and it's up to me and all of that whole idea of I can figure it out and really learning to ask for help and to accept help when help is offered. Um,
Mm,
that has been a challenge because as soon as one thing about becoming when you realize I'm doing this on my own and you realize that you're a single parent, you immediately are like, I'm alone, like this is
yeah.
just me. That's the immediate mindset that comes right into play as soon as you really come to that realization. And so it's hard to separate the alone part and realize that you do have a village, that you can connect with other people, and that there's so much power in your community, whether that is family members or your friends or your church family or maybe even some work colleagues. You can depend and learn to trust people and to lean
Mm-hmm.
into them. And it doesn't have to be like they have to be the other parent. You don't
Yeah.
necessarily need anyone to step in to be the parent that's missing, but you can learn to accept the help when help is offered. And that is something that I think I've learned, and him learning. It's still
Yeah.
a growing process, but that has been one of the biggest lessons in being a single parent. It's just like, I don't have to do it single.
Come
I don't
on.
have to do it
Right.
alone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's huge. And you said the superwoman, because how often are we conditioned to be
Mhm.
able to do it all? And I think just in general, as women, right? We are,
Right.
you have to be the mother, you have to be a woman, you have to be a worker. And so that can become overwhelming. And you made a statement that having an opportunity to reach out to a village, what made you kind of assess the vulnerability in that and really saying, hey, I do need help? Like, how did you go about asking? Because that comes sometimes is hard, right?
Hmm. Well, I guess it's kind of like there's been a few steps to the journey of figuring that all out. So, I started out my single parenthood while I was still serving in the military. I was in the Air Force. And so um, they kind of force you to have a village because they need to know, if we deploy you, who's going to take care of your kid. And so
Mm.
you do learn kind of quickly, like, who can I trust? Who can take on the role, and who can I depend on to do things the way I would do things with my son? And so
Mhm.
learning then on is like, I did learn kind of quick, like I have to depend on people. And a lot of those times those people look like my parents, or my family, my sister, my grandmother. Those were people who ended up being the people who helped the most. But I think as the journey came along, learning that your friends can be really good help too, and that you're not a burden to them. That
Yeah.
was one of the things that I had to learn too. So like you expect your family to step up and help out, right? Most family members
Hmm.
are going to step up and help out, but you don't always think that I can trust my friend.
Mm.
And when my friends started offering, hey, I'll babysit Ryan so that you can go do this thing, or whatever, and just learning, like, okay, you're gonna help. Oh, are
Yeah.
you sure? And you get
Right.
this, like, are you sure? Like, I can pay you, I can do, whatever. And you get into this, like, I don't want to be a burden. But
Mm.
when you have good friends and you surround yourself with good people, and good people attract good people, right? So when
Yes.
you get around good people want to help. They want to offer.
Hmm.
They want to be able to be a help for you because they know you can't do it alone for a long time. It's not sustainable. So
Yeah.
over the years, it's just kind of learning that, okay, wow, I'm not a burden. I don't have
Hmm.
to be a superwoman. And
Yeah.
it's okay to ask for help. Like, it's okay to say,
Hmm.
I need help in this area.
Yeah.
Whether you're a single parent or not, if you're watching this and you're not a single parent and you're having a hard time, like, asking for help for something, it's okay to ask
Yeah.
for help. We're not supposed to know everything and have everything put together. I have to say that to myself, too.
Right. That is so, and Katrina, that is so good, because I think it takes a moment of being humbled,
Right.
right? And saying, and kind of like even a surrender, like, I need somebody else to help carry this burden. And I know I struggled with that during my, like, probably like when my son may have been like around your son's age, 10.
Mhm.
Like, I felt like I exhausted a lot of my resources early on because I just wasn't quite ready to step into that parent role. So I would utilize my friends to watch my son because I still was wanting to hang out. And so I felt, in a sense, I exhausted my village, right? And then when I really wanted to, I needed help, it's kind of like I was prideful and I didn't want to ask for help because I'm like, they're going to think she should, I just, all these lies that the enemy was trying to tell me, like,
Right.
oh, well, she should have already, she should be established right now and she should have
Mhm.
a system in place. And but they weren't saying that. That's just what I was telling myself.
Right.
Um, but God was like, you need help. You need to ask. And I thank God for community and friends and family that were able to help me with raising my son. And so
Mhm.
definitely can understand that 100%. Um,
There
and
was a
yes.
comment in here that from Thais.
Mm.
She said, just because you're asking for help doesn't mean you're failing. And that's so good. That is the truth, 100%. And I would say that I think for a long time, part of that superwoman complex and the not asking for help is feeling like if I ask for help, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
if I ask for help, obviously I don't have this I don't have it handled. I'm failing. I'm not doing good enough, you know. And we put so many expectations on ourselves and create this perfect mom or dad thing that we like to put this hat on. But really, you don't have to put on this perfect hat, because what's a perfect parent anyway, right? So you don't have to. And asking for help, I really love that you said that, Thais, because asking for help is not failing. You're not failing if you have to ask for help. In fact, it's a strength to ask for help.
Exactly. And that's huge. And if we can just grab a hold of that truth, that I think it will help us propel even further to what it is that God's calling us to do, or what we need to do, and just really, again, relinquish that help. And just to not to go into the word real quick, but I have to make this nugget, because it's like a great correlation between what God says to us. When you bring your burdens to me, my yoke is easy, my burden's light. So he's saying, you got to ask me, right? You got to ask me to lift this burden, because I'm willing to lift this burden off of you, and I'm willing to help you. And it's the same thing in the natural. We have to be able to ask and say, hey, at this moment, I can't do it all. I am struggling. I need that support. So that's so awesome.
Right.
What else do you feel like there was something else that you may have overcame in your journey of parenting as a single person? Because it's just a journey. It doesn't mean this is who you are, right?
Right. We're not at a destination here.
That's right.
I think, and I think I can speak for many people who might watch this video, of forgiveness, you know, working through forgiveness, because nobody asks to be a single parent. You know, you don't go into a pregnancy saying, I'm going to do this on my own. Some women might, and that might be true for some women. And so I don't want to exclude or say anything bad about that. But a lot of us, we go into relationship and we expect your relationship to last, and then something happens. And if you happen to have children, when that something happens, and you're faced with this heartbreak, you're faced with the bitterness that comes with it, resentment that comes with it, and now you're like, crap, now I'm doing this on my own. Like, if you're a parent who had the other parent leave or abandon you, there could be a lot of bitterness and resentment that comes from that. And I'm not one of those parents that are completely abandoned, but there was a lot of a season in my life when Bryant first started, was born, that me and his father did not get along, and we had there's a lot of bitterness and a lot of resentment. And I can't speak for him, but I can speak for myself. And it releasing that burden of bitterness, that heaviness, and forgiving that person, realizing that, whatever it might be, maybe you guys were young and then it just didn't work out, or whatever it is. And it's hard. Like I say this knowing that this is easier said than done, but getting to that place of forgiveness is so important. And it took me years to kind of get there, honestly, to get there fully, and to really release and let go, and know that there's no coming back. Like, we're not going to have that. And with that came with another thing that I had to learn too, is like expectations, having high expectations for someone who may or may not reach those expectations, and coming to the reality that that's the reality. And so, I think for me personally, I expected this super dad. I had a super dad growing up, so I'm expecting this super dad to step it up and be this person. And although he could do that, but maybe there's not a season for that for him, or for that person at the time. And coming to like the maturity and the humbleness to be able to say, okay, I would love it for this person to be this person. But what I have in front of me is this person.
Right. Yes.
And accepting that and dealing with it
Mm-hmm.
and learning to forgive the person for not being the person you want them to be.
Right.
And
And
so
that's,
that
yeah,
is
that's huge.
very, very hard. And it's a daily challenge. It's something that you're like,
Yeah.
oh, with every disappointment, you know, it comes and goes. And you're like, oh, I just wish
Yes.
you would just do what you're supposed
Mhm.
to do.
Right.
But then coming back to that, you know what? He or she is doing the best that he or she is able to do in the season that
Yes.
they're in life right now.
Right. That's
And
huge.
the next challenge comes with helping your child understand that when they
Yeah.
become aware of it. And that's kind of the season we're into. Just being
And
able
that's,
to
yeah.
help navigate that with your
Uh-huh.
child and help
Hmm.
them understand that, you know, hey, I know that this could be better, and it would be so simple if it could be better, but it's not
Yes.
right now. And what can we do to help you understand that that person still loves you, but they only have so much capacity.
Right.
So
Exactly.
the capacity is not there.
Mm.
Until that person can mature to the level they need to be matured at, their capacity
Yeah.
is not going to grow. Your capacity can't grow until your maturity grows. And so
That's right.
being patient in that. I mean, it goes on and
Patient.
on. There's so many lessons in this, right? So it goes
Yes.
on and
And
on. So you have to be patient
right.
and you have to
Patient is the
endure.
key.
Right.
Exact. And that's huge. Like the forgiveness, I think, is the foundation for a lot of healing, a
Mhm.
foundation for success as a parent, and a foundation for just understanding who you are. And you mentioned like the whole capacity and seeing somebody as they are and not putting your expectations on them.
Mhm.
And I think we talked about this before.
Yeah.
I remember when I said to my son's father, you need to be here you need to step it up and you need to be here every weekend. And I don't think, the Lord would be pleased with this. And I'm saying all these things to him. And he stops me in my foot, in my track. And he was like, how do you not know God's not preparing me in this manner for something later on down the line where I may have to watch, Desmond may have to come stay with me one time. You
Mhm.
never know. And it just stopped me right there because I'm like, you know what? You're absolutely right. Why I think you should be here, God knows what's best. And He
Right.
may be having you on another journey that I may not understand at this moment, but He knows the ending from the beginning. And sure enough, like, sis, not even like, I'm thinking maybe 2 years later, my son had an opportunity to go stay with his dad and his wife, and they were in a great position to be able to bring him in. So it's like things work together when we trust the plan of God. You know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
even though it doesn't look like the way we think it should look, there's still a plan in place. And you mentioned about how do we convey that to our children because all they see is that there's something absent in their life,
Right.
right? How do they understand that at their age? And I think we just have to continue as what you're doing with Brian and what I continue to do with Desmond is show them how to offer up forgiveness and help them understand that just like you said, some people don't have the capacity to bring on more in their life because of what they may be dealing with or
Mhm.
what they're going through. But nevertheless, we know that that person loves you. And if they could, they would. But you have to, again, route them back to the Heavenly Father. We have a Father that's going to provide our needs, and we are going to rejoice in that. You know what I mean? And I just constantly reminded my son of that. Like, but nevertheless, but look what God is doing. If something doesn't go our way, or if we feel there might be a lack, God always comes forth and shows us, I
Right.
have you guys. And helping them see that, right? Helping them see the blessings in our life, I think is huge. And by you walking out forgiveness, they're going to see that.
Right.
And they're going to have a heart to forgive because they see how you forgive. And so it's so important. So that's huge, sis. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for that.
Yeah,
I
of
think,
course. And I think too, like it helps them later down the road. You know, how many of us know someone who's got daddy issues or other issues that they haven't been able to work through because maybe they suppressed it or they have, they're believing other lies. They haven't gotten to that place of forgiveness and it causes them more pain later on in their adult life. And so kind of teaching our kids what forgiveness is like now
Yeah.
teaches them to activate that in their adulthood.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I was gonna, I think you said something earlier, like there's no perfect parent. And I tell Desmond all the time, I said, you know what? This is my first time being a parent. This is my first time being a
Mhm.
mom at the age that you're 13. This is the first time being a
Yeah.
mom now that you're 17. So I need some grace too because I've never done this before, right? And same thing with the if it's the mother or the father on the other end. They haven't done this before either. So
Mhm.
they're learning along the way. So there's no blueprint. And everybody parenting is different because every child is unique. So we're learning how to raise you in the situation that God has put us in, which may look different than your friend at school, right? And so that's another way to help them understand that, there's no mistake. It's just divine purpose, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, have you ever felt um have you ever felt that you're incapable of being, um let's say incapable of being a good mom? And if that's the case, what did you once define yourself as a good man, and do you see it differently? I mean, a good mom, do you see it differently?
Oh man, that's a tough question. There have definitely been moments where I'm like, I'm not doing a good job, or
Mm,
I did a terrible job handling that situation, or how am I going to do this? I don't feel equipped. There have been plenty of times, and this year has been kind of challenging in that respect, where I've sat down and I'm crying. I'm like, Lord, I don't know what to do about this situation. And but here's what I did. I'm asking God, Lord, what can I do about the situation? Because He knows better than I know. And
yeah.
then it comes back to like that village. It comes back to leaning into the village, and maybe that village includes therapy. And that
Mm,
was one of the things that I had to figure out. So my son had some difficulties in school and had some insecurity issues and is talking negatively about himself. And I felt, even though I have a degree in psychology, what I
yeah.
told the therapist was, I feel like I'm too close to the fire to do the therapeutic things I know would work, but
Mm,
I don't feel like that's the right fit for me in that moment. And so coming to like the place of like, I guess like humbling yourself a little bit, and not again coming not being the therapist for my kid. Just realize, okay, I think someone outside looking in could be more beneficial,
mm,
and knowing that that's okay to do that and let someone kind of navigate that and partner with me, because
yeah.
and that's really what it's become, is a partnership. And so now he's doing
Mm,
so much better because of that partnership. If it was
yes.
up to me, I'm going to burn myself out trying to
Yes.
figure it out. You know what I mean? I knew
Yes.
that. I was like, I don't feel equipped. I don't feel like, even though I can, if I had another kid who wasn't my kid going through the same thing, I probably could have helped him. But being
Mm-hmm.
too close to the fire, I just knew, I was like, okay, I need a little help here. And I
Yeah.
knew where the help needed to come from. And so
Mm,
that has been a huge blessing for me and for Brian. And it's not, I really hate the stigma of kids not needing or needing to be in therapy. I really hate that stigma, because it is important for them to have the the help to help them with their emotions and to
yeah.
figure things out. And they may not listen to your parents. I mean, how many times have we talked, our mom has given us advice or something? I mean, I'm guilty of it. And if my mom is watching, she's probably gonna be like, oh yeah, she's right. How many
Yes.
times do we get that advice from our family and our parents?
Yes.
We're like, oh mom,
Right.
or and then you hear from someone else and you're like, click, it works. So,
Right.
you know,
I
and
just
just
told you that. Yeah.
again knowing too is like, this is developing him to know where to stay from. If
Mm-hmm.
mom can't be that person, if he doesn't feel like he can lean on me in that way, whatever the reason, and that's okay if he
Mm-hmm.
can't, then he knows where he can go get help. And so
Yes.
there definitely have been some times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. Disciplining has been another area where I'm like, oh, Lord, help me figure out how to handle this. I have felt like I've made mistakes in my discipline, and I've felt that I've made mistakes and how I've handled some situations. But
Yeah.
it's so easy to get into a place of like, I suck. You know, I mean,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, that
Yeah.
was terrible. And I did a bad job there. And you get into that guilt and shame, but guilt and shame doesn't belong in parenthood
Come on now.
because there's no perfect parent. There's no blue book, right?
Right.
So you can
Right.
make mistakes as long as you recognize that they're mistakes and you work on fixing them. And so
That's yeah.
yeah, I felt like I made some mistakes in my discipline, but I found a method that works for me and I fixed it.
Yeah.
And
Come on.
you know, you fix it, you grow. I can't
Right.
sit back and pity myself,
Yeah.
but I can decide, okay, that was a screw up.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I can do differently. How can I do that better? And if you don't know, go get help.
That's that's huge. And this is such good wisdom, Katrina, because like when you said it kind of goes back to that superwoman Kate. We don't have to do it all. And you know what? If we're unable to, if God's not giving us the answers, maybe because he gave somebody else the answer that our child needs to go to and build
Yeah,
that relationship or build that rapport. And you know what that's doing? That's building they're starting to understand about community. They're
right?
starting to understand about a village. And they're understanding that guess what? I'm not going to be able to do everything on my own. So it's okay for me to reach out and ask, right? You see, like God's planting seed and watering it so that he gives the increase. And you know, something else that you mentioned was that about therapy. I think it children and youth and young adults need a safe place that may not be mom and dad,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where they can truly be able to express themselves without the eyes or you know how we're parents,
Yeah.
we see the best in our children,
Mm-hmm.
but they might want to see themselves for who they are and be
Mm-hmm.
able to work and not feel that pressure that I'm doing everything right. And does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
And then
going into
another
that
thing too is like we as parents, we could want to fix things right away too.
yes.
And so sometimes that kid may not want you to fix it. He might just be like, he or she might just be
Hmm.
like, I want you to just listen to me and we can step into like, well, how can mama fix it? Like, you
Yeah.
immediately want to fix it.
Right.
And sometimes they just want to say, I'm having a hard day.
Yeah.
I want to
Hmm.
know how to express that. And so we
Yeah.
gotta step back and be able to be that wall that doesn't have to say anything, doesn't have to fix it all
Yes.
the time, but just listens. And there's
Yes.
no age requirement for just listening to your kids. Your kids
Right.
don't have to be teenagers for you to sit back
Mhm.
and just listen to your kids. You know,
Right.
your 4-year-old can tell you, Mom, I'm having a bad day. And you can sit back
Yeah.
and without being like a fixer and just
Yes.
let them talk at you and then give
Hmm.
them a hug and tell them, well, mom's here, dad's
Yeah.
here, I love you,
Hmm.
and we're gonna make it through.
Right.
You're stronger than this.
Yes. And being and so they and also so we don't enable them or I'm sorry, not enable, but we don't stifle them being able to feel and express.
Right.
I remember there was something Desmond just recently he was going through and I knew what he was going through hurt him, right? And of course Mama Bear wants to like tell me about it, but I heard the Lord tell me, let me deal. Let him feel what he's feeling and let me deal with him. Let me be the one to come in and rescue and talk to him about it. Um, because he needs to learn how to come to me, right? And
Right.
but not necessarily hide those feelings or bury them, but it's okay to express it in that moment,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so that's something that's huge that again, like when they see us do that, you know what I'm saying? When they see us express our feelings or when they see us praying, that is planting some seeds in our children to
Right.
go and do the same thing. I wasn't one that grew up in a home that arguments and disagreements were hidden. It was actually out in the open majorly. But at the same time, I think it's we have to show the reality of life. Like we can't hide that I'm hurting today or I had a bad day at work or I felt rejected about something. Not that you have to go into details,
Right.
but they have to see children have to see us as humans as well, not just
Right.
parents, if that makes, so it's like a two-way. They're little people.
Right.
They're not just going to be our children always. They're going to grow up and have their own life. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to start to cultivate that and walk in that these are little people, and how do you want them to respond in the world when things come their way,
Yeah.
right?
So
So
always
that's
thinking about how they're going to handle relationships. And someone
yes,
put in the comments that, doing that validates their feelings. And what it
yes,
also does is it creates their own autonomy. They're able
yes,
to be individuals. They're able
right.
to individualize themselves, separate themselves from, how mom or dad would handle it. They're handling things on their own. And then what
Hmm.
that in turn teaches them is how to handle feelings in their future relationship.
Right,
I'm always
right.
thinking about, like, what kind of husband is my son going to be?
Yes,
You
I
know
was
what I
just having
mean?
this conversation
And
earlier.
how do I
Yes,
want him to love? How do I want him to show love? And how do I want him to receive love? Teaching
yes,
him what good love is, you
right.
know, and good love validates, and good love, lifts you up. And so, and good love gives you space to be you.
Right.
And so if
Yes.
we always tell our kids, shut up, get over it, it's not a big deal,
Mm.
that totally invalidates them. And that
Hmm.
makes them shut things in. That makes
Yep.
them feel they can't trust you. That makes them
Hmm.
feel like their feelings are not valid or important.
Yeah,
And when
right.
they do that, that will show up in their adult relationship.
Exactly. And whether it's platonic or romantic, it's going to
Right.
show up in how they engage. And
Right.
one of the blessings that we have as mothers is that we get to produce that vulnerability in our children, male or female, right? Um, but sometimes I see today that because mothers have had to step up a little bit and raise the children just because, systematic and spiritual things,
Right.
that sometimes we overstep our boundaries and we become that that voice in their head, that controlling parent trying to
Mm-hmm.
dictate and make them be exactly what we want them to be. And there's a balance. Like at some point when your child is starting to enter adulthood, we got to step back. We got to step back as parents and allow them to take on their journey, and I'm learning that, like, right now my son's 17, and when I tell you it's hard, but I have to sometimes shut my mouth and be like, allow him to go and make his decision. And I have to trust what God has instilled in him and what he has taught me to teach him, and not be the problem solver for him. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense? And so
Yeah.
it's huge. So there's that balance of that parenting that I felt like, how do you be what is being a good steward? Because we don't own the children.
Right.
They're ours.
Right.
Yes, God has given them to us, but we don't own them and we're not their God. And so finding that balance between, okay, being a steward and parenting, but also knowing when to pull back. I was going to share, I think one of the hard times that I really struggled with was, I think my son had to been like 3 years old, and it was just a hard year. And it was a year my mother passed away. There's just a lot of changes happening in my life. Things just were kind of like, I felt like we're just uprooted so quickly. And I remember I entered a depression,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm depressed, not going to work, like missing days and days of work. But I have a son, you
Right.
know. Um, but when you're depressed, it's kind of like everything's blocked out. Like you really don't think about anything but that sorrow that you're experiencing. And I remember one day just saying, Lord, if I can just get on my knees and pray, and ask God for some help. And I remember getting on my knees and I said, God, I need help. And he used my son as a strength in that moment. He's like, if you let go and you just give up, who's going to be that example for him? Who's
Mm-hmm.
going to raise him in the way that I called you to raise him? And that did something for me. And I think that has always been my guide in my life. Not that I'm walking nowhere near perfect, because I've fallen so many times, but I use that as to get back up again, because you know what I'm saying? Because it's so important
Yeah.
that I was a living example for him, because that was God called me to do when I was had my son. And then I think about, like, being that living example, how that's going to impact their life, but also staying close to God enough so that he can see that I am a human, right? I am going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
I didn't hide anything. Desmond saw me crying. He saw me praying. He saw me sad. He saw me mad. But I can tell you, he saw me running to God. You know what I mean? And I think that's, if we don't teach our kids anything else,
Mm-hmm.
teach them about having a relationship with God. And
Right.
I said, if I didn't teach you anything else, you better know how to pray.
Right.
You better know how to pray, right? So
Right.
that was something that I felt I've overcame, and God had really used to be a pillar in our lives and to help me keep going on and not to give up. Yeah.
Yeah. So good.
Yes. What are you were mentioning to me about, okay, we know your mom, right? We know
Mm-hmm.
you have a beautiful, wonderful, handsome 10-year-old. Um, how has that left you as a person? Like, where do you feel your niches? Have you lost your desires? Have you lost your dreams? What are you doing with that?
I think they went away for a little while.
Okay.
For a little while they went away, but then
Hmm.
God started bringing it back, right? Because
Yes.
we, as parents in general, whether you're a single parent or not, we can easily put that role in the forefront of who we are and make that, our lives about parenting. And
Yeah.
we forget who we are sometimes. And I
Hmm.
think I think it's a little more of a slippery situation when you're a single parent, because you don't have time to figure out your desires anymore. A lot of times you're just trying to, like, I just need to have a job that I can work so I can just keep food on the table for me and my kids, and whatever. And you just kind of step into this parent role, and you do separate from your dreams and your desires and things that you want to be involved in. Um,
Yes.
and so the Lord started showing me visions of things that He wanted me to do. And I remember, and I still have moments of doubt sometimes, but thinking like, oh, I can't do that. I don't have time. I have to, I have to keep this good paying job, and I have to do that. But learning to step out on faith, and
Mm.
realizing that I'm more than a parent. At some point, he's going to turn 18, somewhere between 18 and
Mhm.
25. He's going to move out. He's going to do his own thing. And then I'm left, you know?
Yeah.
So what do I do with myself when he's gone? Who am
Yes.
I when I'm not mom? And so
Right.
you have to nurture those other identities, those other pieces of who you are, and don't let go of those desires. Like I said, I am a mom, and the reason why we're here is because I'm a mom, and I'm a
Yeah.
mom, a parent that is single. But
Yes.
there's more to me than that. I share that I'm a writer, I'm a poet. I do
Yes.
write and I do poetry, and those are passions of mine. And those are
Yeah.
some of the things that the dreams that I thought that were not attainable or reachable because I became a parent, God has brought
Yeah.
back and said, I'm making room for those. And
Yes.
so, and going after it. I think what
Mhm.
you said before about, we talked about, being, uh, being vulnerable and authentic with your kids and showing them that who you are. It's
Mhm.
important for us to show our kids that it's possible that they can do their dreams too.
Yes.
It's important for them to know that, I think one of the things that I had a dream back
Mhm.
in December, I think it was. And in my dream was Brian. He was grown. I didn't know what he looked like, but he was a grown man. And he
Uh-huh.
got onto the stage and he
Mm.
said, when I was 9 years old, my mom quit her job.
Wow.
And then it was nothing. Like, I don't know what
Wow.
happened after that. But there
Mhm.
was this like proud tone in his voice. And so yeah,
Yes.
I left my job to pursue a dream. And
Mhm.
that was one of a very challenging, scary, nerve-wracking thing to do. But it was probably one of the best decisions I've made, because I was heading towards burnout with my job.
Yeah.
I was not paying as much attention to my son. I have more time for him now. I am
Mhm.
pursuing a dream that I never thought was attainable. And I've had more time for my church family. I've had more time for ministry. It's opened up so many doors. And just knowing that, man, there's still room for me to do what I want to do and still be a parent. Like, I don't, time's not
Mhm.
running out. I still have space. We all think we
Yes.
take 24 hours in a day. Some people are doing their entire 24 hours being a parent. But I choose to do
Yes.
parenting and other things. And
That's
and
good.
it's important for you to follow your dreams. It's important for your kids to see follow your dreams so that they don't have fear about following their dreams.
Yes.
So I do
Yes.
feel confident knowing that Bryant is watching me, that he's
Mhm.
looking at me, and he might see some tears from time to time. He might see me go, oh my gosh, what are we going to do from time to
Yeah.
time? But at the end of the day, he's going to see that my mom did something really brave. And
Yes.
she did it for me. She did it for her. She did it for our legacy because
Come
we're
on.
building a legacy, and
Yep.
it's gonna happen. And another thing too is like he's watching me activate my faith.
Yes.
So he's
That's
watching
that
me,
part.
right, knowing that
Yes.
my mom, she could have did it the easy way, but she's doing it the more challenging way. But because she has God on her side
Come
and
on now.
she's linked arms with God, he's seeing me linking arms with God
Yes.
to pursue something that is more challenging. I could have gone the easier route and done what's expected, or
Yeah.
whatever. But I know that there's more for me to offer,
Yes.
and so do it and do it scared.
That's it. Right. That's so good. And that's like the perfect way to end on this good talk. Facebook Live is just understanding that even though you are a parent and you might be raising your children alone, you are truly not alone because
Right.
number one, you have a village around you, but most importantly, you have God who has purposed you to raise that child in that season. And remember, it's just a season. This
Right.
is not your destiny,
Mm-hmm.
right? And Katrina said it earlier, it's not your end stop. You're journeying through, you're going through. Our children will go off and have their own families. And here we are going to be by ourselves, with ourselves. And the most important thing is that you have to nurture the relationship with yourself. You can't nurture any other relationship until you understand who you are. And so if you guys don't catch anything, trust God, step out on faith, know that we don't have to do it all by ourselves. You're not a superman or a superwoman. That we need the village to be able to raise these children in this time, and that God is with us, and that we
Mm-hmm.
can do a good job through God raising our children. And there's no blueprint. So everybody's relationship with their children is going to look different. All we want to see is good fruit being bared from it. That's it. So I would like to say thank you so much, Katrina, for joining this live. I so love you. I appreciate you, girl. You were dropping some great wisdom, some nuggets. So I hope you guys take a chance to listen to this. Write some things down. We'll be doing more of this. If you really
Mm-hmm.
like the Facebook Live, let us know. I think it's a good way to interact. Thank you to everyone who's joining. You guys were dropping nuggets in the comments.
Yes, you
So thank you
were.
for that. And we love you. And I just pray God blesses you 100-fold. Okay. Amen. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.